Hi and welcome to the MCA Prodcast, your fix for everything innovative in advertising production. I'm Pat Murphy and I've been working in this industry for more than 35 years now. I've seen a lot of changes, but know that there's many more around the corner. Each week on the Prodcast, you'll get to hear from one of the movers and shakers who are shaping the world of production for the future. And we'll dive into some of the key challenges facing our sector today and how we're best placed to overcome them. Today, you're going to meet Tina Fegent. Tina's regarded as one of the world's most respected marketing procurement experts. She's one of the first to have worked in marketing procurement over 25 years ago, and she established some of the very first marketing procurement teams in the UK for many leading brands. And there isn't a category of marketing that she hasn't procured for. She was then the very first procurement person to work agency side at Grey and then went to Low London as their commercial director. She knows both sides of the fence. In 2006, she set up Tina Fegent Consulting to offer a marketing procurement consultancy. And she mentors, trains marketing procurement teams and individuals. She's chaired the Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply, or SIPS to you and I, a specialist knowledge group on marketing, and is also a volunteer chair of the Get Shit Done board for the Conscious Advertising Network, which is trying to make sure that the industry ethics catches up with technology of modern advertising. And what's for someone in procurement? Yes, it's true. She is quite a nice person too. Tina and I go... we go on and on and on and on. But let's welcome to our podcast today, Tina Fegent, everybody. Hi, Tina. How are you doing?
Thanks very much, Pat. I'm well. Nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Tina, I know you like to chat, so we won't have any dead air today. We met, I think, first time going back when you were at Grey and I was a client at Procter & Gamble. At that time, marketing procurement was a new function on the client side. We're showing our age a little bit there, I think. But to be honest, in the early days, there was a lot of challenge and, dare I say, criticism of procurement people trying to buy creative skills in the same way commodities were bought. And that didn't help reputation in the industry. Indeed, some people in the industry looked upon procurement as a little bit of a dirty word. Do you think that's still the same today, or have things changed?
Things have changed, Pat. I wouldn't say 100%. And I think it depends on, the procurement person's target. Procurement invariably do report into the finance department. And what the finance department want? They want cost savings. And look at procurement in any other role, direct procurement. So if you were buying tin cans or raw materials, it is about that lowest cost, especially obviously now with the economic climate we are in. I've got a couple of clients and their supply chain costs are going through the roof, and dare I say it, with Brexit as well, and transport costs, etc. So I think it has improved, but I would say you still have got, I'm going to take a guess, 30% probably procurement people that are cost focused because of where they sit in an organisation. It could be where the organisation wants to deliver on cost savings. But there's a lot more enlightened procurement people, supported by the likes of WFA and their sourcing forum, and people like yourselves as well in terms of external consultancy support. So I think we've come a long way, to quote Fatboy Slim. As you said, we've both been working in the industry for 30 years. And whilst cost is probably always there, a lot of them are much more about driving value beyond savings. I know we might talk about Project Spring later, but I think we have got a lot better. But, we've learned. But you still do the occasional one. There was a thing before Christmas, Dr. Pepper in the States doing a request for proposal, 360 days payment terms.
Whoa, you serious?
Yeah, for PR as well, which, it's not a big value contract, 300. And you think, if I had to buy your Dr. Pepper product in the convenience store, it's not 360 days because you want the money there and then.
You want the money there right now,
Yeah. So the short answer is we have come a long way. A lot of people are much more improved. And the trick is, if you're an agency and you deal with procurement, to know where they sit. Are they cost focused and are going to be focused on that, or are they looking at the bigger picture?
So I suppose those are the things to establish right at the beginning of a relationship, isn't it? Understanding what the agendas are, are the KPIs of marketing and procurement aligned or not? Is it a very cost focused exercise?
Yeah, and I think that's the trouble, that people dealing with procurement do put their head in the sand. Well, one, thought they're going to go away. And as I said, I've been doing it for 30 years. So, I don't think we are going to go away now. And there's many more of us. So, it's like anything, isn't it? But just understand who you're dealing with. And I'm still surprised, it's 18 years since I worked agency side, how there's a few more procurement people agency side, but not many. So I think, know who you're dealing with, be prepared, preparation. Have your facts and figures. If you're having reconciliations on production or on your fee, you've got to be prepared. And, from an agency or production company point of view is be prepared. No, magic and logic, as we know, is what? 15, 16 years old. And that is still true. You have to balance the magic with the logic. And procurement love the logic, but I think a bit more involved in the magic as well. But it's a hard line pack. So I remember when I was at SmithKline Beecham, there was a Lucasade ad, and it had Alan Shearer in. So that's probably quite a few years ago now, isn't it? And the marketing director asked for my view on it. I'm like, I'm procurement. I sort of can't give you, and also I'm not the target market, for example. So it is such a fine line because obviously, I love the industry we work in. I love seeing the new creative work, and you have to really appreciate that. But it is that fine line with understanding what you're getting involved in, what you're buying, making sure from a commercial and operational point of view is you're ticking all the right boxes, but you're not affecting the output.
Yeah, and in many respects, we all have the same objective, really. It's about buying things brilliantly that deliver outstanding creative work, but also delivers commercially, I think. And it's all about alignment at the earliest possible stage, isn't it?
Yeah, and communication.
And in communication as well. In my conversation with Sergio at Publicis, we talked about trust. It's often said that the best relationships are where all parties, in inverted commas, partner. But how can clients and agencies alike truly make this work? Why is there still a lack of trust? Probably more so now these days than ever before.
The old story when you get on an airplane, how the creative agency turns left, and the media agency production company client turn right into economy, isn't it? And that does affect those levels of trust.
And it still goes on, though. Yeah? I've seen it.
Have you?
It still goes on now. Yeah.
Yeah. True of you. I did look at a production quote not so long ago from an agency, and they flew to South Africa, and it was first class because they needed the flexibility to change the flights. But the client's policy was economy. So, interesting. But, trust takes time, doesn't it? And I think for me, as you mentioned, communication's the key. Yeah, and as you rightly said, from a procurement point of view, be open and honest. If you have got to achieve cost savings, or if you have got to look at supply rationalisation, or if it is about improving the quality, or if it is about using technology to create content better, using AI, whatever you've been targeted with, be open and honest about it. So I think trust comes from communication. And I'm a huge, huge fan of communicating from all sides. I think sometimes marketeers can stand back a bit and let procurement and agencies and production companies sort of fight it out. Because actually, I think agencies and production companies and the work that Steve Davis has been doing at the APA have come a long way in saying, well, let's understand it. What do they want? Let's have that communication. And I think sometimes it's quite easy for the marketing clients to sort of say, just stand back and let you get on with it. And actually, as you said about alignment, you then don't get that. You get a lack of alignment, and you get, what does the procurement person want? Does the marketing person want? What is the agency doing? And where's the production company in that? And where's the production consultant in that? And where does it all fit? So, it is a complicated industry. We're not just buying, black currants for Ribena for drinks. We are, as you said at the beginning, we are buying services. We are buying people. And it is different. It is really different. And that's why things like e-auctions are quite hard to do, because you're not buying a commodity. You are buying a person and an output from that. And as you said, the quality, it could be low, medium, high, and that could depend on how that drives sales. So low value, output, TV ad, poster ad, outdoor radio ad, digital ad, is that going to drive sales? But if you double the cost of it, is that going to drive sales? And I think marketers are much more focused on return on investment these days, and that really does help, I think, from a procurement point of view, to have those conversations.
I agree. Now, you've always, in my view, you've always managed to hit that brilliant fine balance in the way that you've built relationships over the years. What do you think is the best skills for a procurement person to learn to be able to be more effective in their role, do you think?
One is like to chat, as you alluded to. Two, an appreciation of the arts. And I remember years ago I worked for a government department, and sort of, what's your favourite TV ad? Don't watch TV. Okay, read books. Well, that's quite admirable that you read books, but if you are responsible for creative agencies, I'm mentoring a girl at the moment, and every Friday I do Tina's tips. So Tina's Tina's view, and I do 5 things I've seen during the week. So last week it was things like ChatGPT, Ryan Reynolds, the Mint Mobile ad, what happened at CES in Las Vegas, and then I suddenly added in the last minute ad of the week. I was like, let's talk about our ad of the week. And actually mine was the McDonald's one, the Leo with the eyebrows. You see, I don't know if you've seen it yet, have you? I love it. And then hers was the VCP Cadbury's one, the dad, the girl in the petrol.
That's lovely. Nice.
Yeah, really lovely. So actually, and like this week, the one that I've chosen, she doesn't know it yet, is, I don't know if you've seen the ITV one. It's a melting iceberg. It's to promote their planet Earth equivalent. But I think procurement people don't appreciate the concept of marketing advertising. So start of lockdown, I actually did Mark Ritson's mini MBA in marketing. I chickened out. I didn't do the exam. It's my photocopiers. But actually, with my knowledge and experience, just learning actually in the 10 modules, how 6 modules were about prep and research. And actually the execution, which is the bit we see, both of us, there's the last 2 or 3 steps. But it's about the research, customer segmentation, the 4 Ps, and then actually going to find a supplier agency and then going to do the work. So I think, I think procurement people need to understand the craft they're buying, and a lot of them still don't, and communication.
So on that note then, do you think the best place to find people going into procurement or marketing procurement specifically, do you think that the best place to find those people is from the world of advertising? Should they have done an advertising or a marketing role and then come into marketing procurement? Is that a good place to find them?
Yeah, I chaired a panel on Tuesday. It's all people from North America, and actually 2 of them were marketeers, and they were really, really enjoyed the procurement role. So I do think it probably is easier to have a marketeer and train them in procurement, and the procurement person train them in marketing. I mean, procurement is a tough job. I'm not saying here's our tiny little violin, but there's 17, 18 different categories of spend, from advertising, media, direct marketing, market research, print, PR, with tech. It's a complicated category with subcategories underneath it. So it does take a long time to know it all. So if you've got a marketeer, the other thing about recruiting a marketeer into procurement is they've got the connections. They know, especially if they're internally already working for you, say at P&G, they're already working at P&G, so they know how it works. They know the CMO, for example. But yeah, I would say probably a mix. I would say if I was starting a team up from scratch again, I'd probably do 50-50, because they'd learn from each other, have the marketing people and the procurement people, and then learn from each other. But then they do get support from outside consultants like yourselves, for example, or media auditors or contract auditors as well.
Now, we often hear the use of the term non-working and working spend when it comes to client budgets. It also seems like a very procurement bit of terminology. Production is lumped into non-working spend, but in my view, if you don't get the work right, then it's all non-working spend, isn't it? So why isn't it given more gravitas, the area of execution production?
It's a good question, isn't it? And I think years ago it did have more gravitas. I mean, okay, it was very focused on the 30 or 60-second ad, wasn't it? I think half the trouble is in this world of integration and in this world of multiple platforms, isn't it, with increased, obviously, focus on digital as well. So I do think it's been diluted quite a lot because it is more complicated, it is more digital focused, and there are many, multiple more outlets for how you can do what you used to do. There's Michael Farmer's book, The Manslaughter of Madison Avenue, and it's a really interesting read, isn't it? And it's like after the war, how let's invest in TV work. That's why the Jolly Green Giant got created. Agencies were paid 15%. I mean, those were the days. Their fees were 15%, but it was spend, and the giants of Madison Avenue were sitting up there with the CEOs and directors of the companies, and it was do those TV ads. But I think just because the way the industry has evolved, there has been a dilution in not the importance but the value of marketing. And I think there is questions about what is the role of marketing and what is the value, what is the ROI. And I think a lot of organisations have struggled to say, be it what non-working, working capital is. We know there was a great article, Simon Wolfson, who's the CEO of Next, an article about a month ago. He basically said, I'm happy to spend money in advertising through a recession. especially on digital, because I know for every pound, I can see the result is £2. That's what the ROI he was looking for. And I was talking to one of my clients actually, and she said, actually, our ROI is £3. I said, well, it's actually because Next was saying retail, for those in the UK, was only £2. But he was saying, I'm happy to invest marketing spend in digital because I know it works. But obviously, it's much harder to, if you're an ice cream company and you've done a TV campaign, the sun's shining, well, what's driven those sales? Is it the sun? For those of you in sunny Portugal, Pat, not over here in cold UK, or is it that TV ad? So I think it's harder. And I think going back to one of the recommendations of Magic and Logic is lack of investment in measurement. Clients need to release funds to measure the effectiveness of what they're doing. And I think that would then help that balance of working, non-working, and encourage investment.
It's also about data, isn't it, as well? One of the things that I always talk to people about, which becomes a bit of a sensitive issue, is, how do you use data when it comes to briefing creatives? Because creativity and data don't often kind of make good bedfellows. But I think it's definitely a way for creatives to take the insights from the data and to be able to produce much more effective work. What's your view on the kind of whole area of data in creativity?
I think data obviously plays a big role. And in any pitch, for example, I always really encourage the clients to share as much as possible, reports, etc. they've done. But for me, it probably would go into the planners. And then it's how the planners then interpret that. So I don't know whether I just slightly disagree with you, because let the creators be creative. But I suppose your point is they need a degree. Are you saying, though, should creatives be more numeric and more commercially focused?
Not necessarily. It's about the insights rather than the numbers specifically. So the insights that data can give you can be incredibly powerful when you're kind of being briefed as a creative.
My cousin's a creative at a London agency, so I need to be careful about saying about the role of sort of creatives. I don't know whether I slightly disagree with you, because whether that is the role, I'm a great fan of planners. Great planners do a great job of that link from the client.
I suppose it's the role of a planner or strategist to take that data and turn it into something that's very simple for a creative to understand. It's simplifying that data and making it much more easy to understand, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's great now that you see creatives in pitches. Do you remember years ago, they would never go to client meetings, because they just didn't. And actually, because it's not, my cousin included, it's sort of, they like sitting in, and coming up with the great, doing what they're bloody brilliant at doing. So I think the client interaction for me is an important step for creatives, and a degree of data that, as you rightly said, is managed through the planning and put in that brief that actually, why are they doing that work? Is it to drive the sales? Is it to increase brand effectiveness? Is it to win awards? But yeah, I agree. They do need a degree of data, that allows them to be creative. They should be more they need to be focused on what the outputs are going to be, what the outcomes are going to be.
Now, the world of advertising and marketing is moving very fast. And indeed, there seems to be a huge variety of issues and opportunities when we need to, the things that we need to consider when we're making stuff, including D&I, the advancement of technology like AI, machine learning. Clients are taking back more control now, like in-housing and programmatic. There's reuse, repurposing, and ever-expanding channels and asset requirements and proliferation. What do you see are the big things, or indeed the biggest challenge that clients need to solve right now?
I think it's what is priority, because you're right, Pat, that's a spot on list in terms of what their focuses are. If you're in the States, D&I is the number one thing. I went on a call yesterday from WFA about supplier relationship management, SRM, led by an organisation, and it was all the reason they do SRM, supplier relationship management. In my back, it's always been about relationships. It was about D&I, measuring D&I. So I think if you're in the States, it's about D&I. Over here in the UK and Europe, it's about sustainability. That's so key after disappointing results of sort of COP27. You're right about technology. I actually shared the Lumascape slide with someone the other day, which is a list of all the marketed. And is it 6,000 suppliers or something like that. I haven't counted it, but, if you look at the advances in technology, you've also got things like measurement effectiveness as well. So I think it's prioritisation. I think it's compared to creating a TV ad with Alan Shearer 20 years ago. I think marketers are now faced with, right, I do need to, get the work, but actually where I am in Mark Ritson's 10 steps, I've got to do those 6 steps first and doing all that analysis before I then look at what is the right work to deliver, and hence the rise of, some media planning agencies again, after the naked days, people like Craft Media, for example. I'm hearing more clients look at media planning because actually we want to look at what is the right route for us. It doesn't have to be that necessarily that output. It could be a sponsorship deal, it could be events. The IPA bellwether report came out last week. Marketing spends up by 2.2% compared to a year ago. And with a big focus on events because people are going face to face. So, marketers are having to juggle the whole time the different priorities, in terms of that. So I think that list you said was spot on. And I think the biggest issue is prioritisation. What do we do first? What have we got money for? And I think especially now, we're recording this in January 2023. We are facing a recession. The IPA bellwether report, and apologies, that's a UK focus, but said it'd be a short, sharp recession. And I'm seeing the clients I'm dealing with, some of them start spending money again Q3, Q4. So at the moment, the issue is managing their budgets. And again, procurement people, the call with the North America procurement people on Tuesday backed that up. We've just cut back. We're not doing any marketing spend. We're reducing it. But I'm hoping Q3, Q4, that's going to come back up. And all that list will still be there. But I think D&I in the States, sustainability in the UK is probably the biggest in terms of governance. I think you overlay that with tech. I think definitely content creation, repurpose, and then calling on from tech, the role of AI in that. But you have to be a big spender like some of the clients you're dealing with to actually look at that. If you're only doing one marketing campaign a year, you're not going to look at all that. So yeah, I think it's prioritisation of that list, and it's ever changing.
Mm-hmm. Now I see many procurement teams, many often quite junior, they try and tackle some often complex technical stuff, and they try and do it themselves sometimes. Why do they do that? Surely, that's the time when you should be reaching out to companies like ourselves, and we do have all the experts to help.
Yeah, because procurement don't have any budget. And it's always been the issue, Pat. I remember when I was at Orange and we first looked at a cost consultant to look at, we were using WCRS, those great Orange ads. And I didn't have the knowledge. And I'm still in two minds about, using external consultants, even though I'm an external consultant myself. But procurement don't have any budgets for stuff, so they try and do it themselves. And they make a hash of it because actually, in certain circumstances, it is good to use a third party who is working across other sectors, other clients, other markets. So that procurement person could be based in China. That procurement person could be paid, in another market they haven't got expertise of. And that's the trouble, I think, with a lot of procurement organisations is you might have some global roles and you've got some regional roles, but they haven't got the expertise in all those markets. Plus, as I said, it's such a wide-ranging category with 17, 18 different subcategories, print, etc. You can't get to know it all. Plus, they've got to do all the purchase orders. Plus, they've got to do all the contracts. So, and there's a resource issue. So, I know quite a few marketing procurement clients, and they're managing millions and billions worth of euros worth of spend. There's 2 people. It's like, why isn't there 6? Why? I mean, obviously there are bigger companies, a lot of people you deal with that do have bigger departments that are global, more established. But for still, they're short of resource. So I think they're short of resource, don't have any money, and have got a lot on. So try and do it themselves. Well, actually, they just stood back and said, right, okay, what are our priorities? What are our top 3? Who do we need to deliver that? Do we make a case for going to marketing for the budget? Because it's always having to go to marketing to pay for the budget.
Yeah.
But they're missing out on innovation.
Totally agree. We're seeing this all the time still today. Now, I was really impressed by the launch of Project Spring by the WFA, the World Federation of Advertisers. It's a great read, actually. Much of it just makes good common sense. We're often not seeing evidence of those characteristics that lead to successful marketing procurement relationships day on day. Project Spring identified 10 traits of successful marketing procurement teams. I'm just going to pick 1 or 2 of those from the list. Number 1, on my list. Procurement and marketing have shared business metrics for success. That's number one. I've got another one here, which is procurement leaders have regular conversations with marketing and finance on how to jointly drive value for the business. And there's another one, marketing and procurement provide honest feedback to each other on how they can improve their ways of working. There's a whole load of others as well.
Yeah.
What's your sense of the areas that have really moved forward, do you think?
I think the communication, the metrics, the communication with procurement, finance and marketing. I mean, one of the procurement girls on this call on Tuesday was saying she has access to the finance system. So I think that has really moved on. I think from an internal point of view that's, for me, post-COVID. You know, when COVID hit, I spoke to the CPO of Marks and Spencer's and ASOS, and they were like, when COVID hit, you know, they came knocking. The CEO, the FD, like, oh, we've got an issue with suppliers, agencies. We've got an issue with contracts. Who knows? I mean, whilst, obviously it's tough for everybody, but who do we need to call who can help us? So I think post-COVID, there's been a greater internal alignment, and that's always been a bit of an issue, I think, is, procurement report to finance, it's about cost savings, marketeers playing procurement off with the agency. So I do think that has come a long way in terms of that sort of greater alignment. Metrics, I think, is sort of getting there. What is disappointing when you see it in fees, you want clients to have, say, performance-related fees in your fee element. So something, say to the agency, okay, these are our targets, here's some hard, soft, effective measures, increase in sales, increase in our share price, increase in brand awareness. And, it's still hard sometimes to get that off marketing people, and then for them to be brave enough to say, actually, I'm going to put X% of my fee at risk, because they only want to do it one way often, risk, but you don't want the reward side. And, if an agency delivers great work that works, like the old days in commission.
Absolutely. Reward them.
Exactly. That's 15% commission worked. Again, in Michael Farmer's book, the great work you did got rewarded because you spent more money. And actually, I'm a procurement person, I say, well, that's great. That is that effectiveness. So I think metrics have come a longer way, but there's still work to be done on it. And it comes back to budget. Again, magical logic is spend the money on investment. But again, times of recession, times of profit cuts, what gets cut?
Although saying that, some clients are quite smart. So in the recessions, they actually spend more on marketing in recessions to get better market share. So I think I know certainly Procter & Gamble used to do that when I was there.
Yeah, they were known for it, I think, weren't they?
Yeah.
Exactly. I think Mark Ritson always says that. Is it spend your way out of recession as well, isn't it?
So tell me about CAN, the conscious advertising network. You're very involved in that. What does it mean?
Yeah.
CAN.
Thanks, Pat, for asking for that. So it was set up by Jake Dobbins and Harriet Kingerby five years ago. Jake lived in London at the time, and his Turkish neighbour came back from the pub having been beaten up, and just got Jake thinking about the world we live in, and met Harriet, and basically thought they both work in advertising, that actually the ethics of advertising haven't caught up with technology. And again, our discussion a while ago about the pace of technology and the digitisation of everything that we do. But actually, you only have to go and look at European football final, the abuse that the UK players got because of their colour. Look at COVID, VMO02, which is one of our members. People thought that conspiracy theories thought that 5G masks were spreading COVID. You look at people, when you're using digital advertising and display ads, they're not, they're spending their $10 and $1 gets put on display, not knowing their ad is next to an ISIS video. So basically what they did was set up these manifestos. So there's 7 now in total. We launched a 7th one last year, which is climate sustainability, which is your point about prioritisation. We've got ones on children's wellbeing, ad fraud, misinformation. But when I was talking to CMOs, they're like, "Have you got a climate one?" Because that has been the number one priority. And basically, it's 7 manifestos. And basically, we say to mainly brands and then media agencies is go through. We've got 15 checkpoints on each of the manifestos. Where are you on them? What are you doing to make sure that the ethics are in place when you're buying and creating your media? So great response. It's all free. Most of us are volunteers. We have actually got some philanthropic funding in the last year for some full-time people, which is great. But yeah, I co-chair the Get Shit Done board, which is the UK arm, and that's about working with our member brands, so like VMO2, SSE, British Gas, Innocent, Nationwide, in talks with quite a few at the moment. People like Group M and Havas are members as well. I'm just saying that when you are doing your advertising and you're buying your media, and everything that you do, you are ethical. And Jake and Harriet, work very closely with the UN. We're looking at going global as well. And we just need to make sure that, things like misinformation is just, isn't it? Or you look at certain online publications, when you look below the line at the comments and, the trolls and stalking or ad fraud as well. It's a big issue across all those points. But again, it goes back to prioritisation. So we've been going 5 years. We've got 150 members, which is great. But we haven't got that many big brands.
So I was going to ask you that question. So, is this aimed at brands specifically, or can other companies get involved as well? So, for instance, MCA, we would love to be involved, of course.
Yeah, we'd love to have you involved.
So, how do people reach you?
Yeah, well, just contact me. Just type in Tina Fegent.
Or the website?
Yeah, the website, Country Advertising Network. Just put that in; it will come up.
We'll put all your details on the details of this.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone can join. Yeah, full members have to do the tracker, which is the 7 manifestos, and that is aimed at brands and media agencies. Because obviously, for example, Pat, you couldn't talk about ad fraud in terms of your day-to-day dealings or the ethics of what you do. But we have supported associate members. So you can just say, I'd like to support you. And then we send a survey out once a year to say, this is where we are. Are you applying CAN? But also, Pat, from your point of view, it'd be great if you're talking to your clients to say, have you heard about CAN? Would you like to sign up? We want to go global this year. We're talking to some people in the States, obviously, resource and funding. But no, thank you for asking. And if anyone is interested, come on, especially brands, especially at media agencies. But we would love anyone who's interested. Please go on our website. It will come through to me. And then I can set up a call or send you information. And please, the more people that support what we do, we've got to get change. We have got to affect change in what we do, in everything that we buy in terms of advertising.
Sounds like an amazing initiative. And, we're on this. And if you're listening to this, I implore you to kind of get in touch with Tina or the team there. I think it's a great thing you're doing.
Thank you, Pat.
So look, Tina, there's only one or two things more I wanted to ask you. Firstly, you've been in the business for a long time, right? So you've got some juicy stories. I'm writing a book at the moment and I'm putting it all down into writing. Tell us one or two of your really juicy stories. Come on, spill the beans.
I'm not sure if I, could do that. I mean, there's been some funny instances. So I always teach agencies to read upside down when I do some work with agencies. So when you're negotiating with clients, for example, in a room, look at their notes because, be discreet about it. But there was one story where an agency that I was working with, the client left the room and the agency thought, well, okay, I'll go and look at the client's notes. But actually physically got up and was looking at their notes. Of course, what happened?
Client walks back in. The
client walked back in the room. Yeah. So that was quite funny. Another thing, not quite funny, but sort of dealing with celebrities. I think that's always really interesting.
It's always good talking about celebrities, isn't it?
Yeah. And I've been in some pictures, and it was years and years ago. And it would say something, I don't know why, but I think it was for a smoking brand, apologies. And the agency recommended this celebrity who was a well-known anti-non-smoker. And you just think, what is going on for that? And then years ago, do you remember the TV programme Brushstrokes?
Oh, yes.
There's the main actor in there. I think it was a P&G brand, Pat, because it was when I was working at Grey. And I had to, I'm a procurement person, I had to negotiate with the agent. Oh, my God, that was the worst experience of my life. Having to deal with those talent agents are unbelievable, aren't they?
Particularly the American ones out in LA.
Really?
Very difficult, tough to deal with, yeah.
really, and you think you're a good negotiator until you come up across them. And there was another supermarket that I dealt with who had an ad with 2 chefs, and there was great discussion about which chef should go either side of the billboard. So sort of got involved in that in terms of what the costs were from that point of view. But yeah, there's probably not too much else I could share.
Or stuff you're not allowed to talk about without getting...
Exactly, with the NDAs. But it's all, clients are great, agencies are great, and it's great sitting in those pitches. I love sitting in the pitches. When you come up, there's creative ideas, and even better when you actually see the creative idea they've suggested actually does run as well. And there's been some, funny stuff sent through the post from agencies as part of the sort of pitch stuff. I've got a puppet somewhere it's behind me somewhere. That was supposed to be me, that an agency sent. Didn't
have pins in it, did it?
No, it didn't have pins in it. But that was only last year, the year before. It is behind me somewhere. And obviously, from a procurement point of view, we have to be careful so ethically. But the point was, we're going to do this puppet, and this is what your one looks like. So that was quite good. And then the other thing that I'm known for is probably when we're out and about a bit more before COVID was tweeting quite a lot about agency biscuits. And the quality of agency biscuits when you go in. So it was a posh biscuit brand. You need to watch their overheads. I was tweeting quite a lot about the biscuits, and then I moved on to the toiletries. And actually, it might be White Company on the outside, but they filled it with Lidl stuff inside as well. So actually, from a procurement point of view, and in pitches, actually having a score sheet for goodies. Actually, what are the? Because I remember a media agency I went to once. They had a chef who worked on site, and I still remember the client. There was homemade scones. I mean, fabulous homemade, but they hadn't made them up already. So obviously the agency's presented, and you're trying to cut the scone, and then is it the cream or is it the jam first, and sort of do it that way. And then all these oh my God, the food was unbelievable. So we often joke in procurement about having a score for food, but I think, we've taken it off now. We might comment on it, but we don't actually score agencies on that. So that's a funny sort of thing that we do from a procurement point of view.
Great stuff. Look, final question. What's your favourite ad of all time? And it could be one that you've worked on, but I always love harking back to the ads that we've always loved. What's your very favourite ad of all time?
My favourite ad is when I was growing up, there was a milk company called Unigate.
Unigate. They used to have those little kind of like milk floats that used to come down my street. Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably my first experience of a brand campaign. So they created a character called Humphrey. Watch out. There's a Humphrey about. And it was red and white, and you could get the straws, you could get the stickers. There were some ads as well. So that's my favourite ad. And so it's my first experience, I think, of being aware of advertising, and probably integrate as well, because I still remember the stickers, I still remember the straws. So it's watch out, there's a Humphrey bat. Yeah, absolutely. So and we'll be posting your favourite ad as well from YouTube if we can find it.
Yeah,
so
great.
That would be great. So people can take a look
I
at
love that.
There's going to be lots of people around the world listening to this going, that sounds bonkers. So you can take a look at this. Watch out, there's a Humphrey about ad from many years ago.
Bring it back.
Thanks, Tina. Look, I want to say big thanks to you. Thank you for joining me today. And it's been brilliant catching up and talking to you about old times. I'm sure everyone will appreciate some of the insights that you've given them on your side of the fence, on the procurement side of the fence. So thanks very much.
That's great. Thanks, Pat. Really good to chat to you. And thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
I want to say a big thanks to Tina for taking time to talk to me today about the world of marketing procurement, specifically about production. To find out more about the MCA Prodcast, please head to theprodcast.com, where you'll find details on all of my guests, links to their favourite ads, as we've just mentioned, and full transcriptions of all the episodes. If you'd like to feature on the Prodcast or have any comments, questions or feedback, please email us at podcast@murphycobb.com. I'm Pat Murphy, CEO of MCA. Do come and connect with us on LinkedIn or Instagram, of which all links are in the notes for this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again to my guest, Tina Fegent. my team at MCA, and to my production team at What Goes On Media. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.